Hey, hey guys, what's up? How you doing? Welcome to another ZvT Zerg. And this is a replay analysis. And in today's replay analysis, this is going to be a Zerg versus Terran from the Zerg's perspective at a master's level. The music went really high right there, and then the oh yeah happened at the same time. That was perfect. Yo, Relaxio. Thank you very much, man, for the prime. Welcome to the stream, dude. Welcome. Alright, there we go, boys. The ZvT. ZvT, dude. So the way replay analysis works is I will look at someone's play, and I will help them figure out ways to get better at the game overall. They can think about ways to get, to improve what they're doing, give them ideas on what they're already doing that's good so they don't question it, stuff like that. And you can already see, look at this juicy mineral stacking right here going on. Look at this juicy mineral stack, boys. Oh my god. I like it. What is that drone doing? Whatever. He missed about probably like 10 minerals, but it's not a big deal. Or like 5 at least. Okay. So I would say, in my opinion, it's really important to get your first overlord. This is my opinion, okay? I know that some people might be super paranoid about proxies. I honestly don't really see a problem with proxy if you just have decent drone micro. I think if you just have decent drone micro overall and you turn the music down just a tiny bit. Decent drone micro and an awareness of when it happens right away. And the way you do that, in my opinion, is having a second overlord in front of your natural, and you would just see when the SCV come over, start the bunker, and you can pull drones then, and you'd be totally fine. Because if he waits too long to build that bunker and your hatchery finishes, he can't build it close enough to the hatchery anyways. And also, what's it called? I just read chat. Okay, what was I saying? I just like lost my train of thought. I'll answer that in 1 second. That's fine. I have an idea for you to against that. But basically, I'll just restart because I feel like I forgot where I just was. Overlord in front of your natural. You can easily spot bunker. You can pull your drones, deal with it, overpower the marines no matter what if it's a proxy. And then secondly, you can always hide your overlord over the cliff too if it is a proxy. So your second overlord being here won't die. Your first overlord getting to his base as fast as possible is nice. And if, like what you said, ViBE goes fast marine though to snipe my overlord. If he does that, if there's a tendency for him to snipe your overlord fast, go to the location over near his base that is hideable terrain, which is there. So at least go towards his natural. Like, but you can maybe, instead of maybe going to the bottom of his natural, if you know this dude is a fucking overlord killer, like for instance, the guy I play that does this shit is Rough. Rough is like a Terran player that's like, I'm gonna go marine first and just walk across and kill overlords. And if he's that kind of a player, get across the map at least and just hide an overlord near a like some high ground spot that's like somewhere you can just kind of rotate it around. And the reason why is because if he does that, well, now you know he's doing that, and that changes his build, and that could change your build. But if you don't scout him at all, you don't know that he's doing that, and you don't get to react to it in a way that's intelligent in terms of like changing your build. Like for instance, if he is going for multiple marines to snipe overlords really fast, it means he's delaying his like reactor. He might be delaying his. It depends how many marines he makes. But also, it also could mean he's not making a Reaper, and he's not going to harass you. So if you make safety, like basically the point I'm trying to make here is if you can kind of decipher what he's doing with his barracks early by going, oh, look, an overlord is getting shot right there. I'll just go ahead and hide right there now. You know what that could tell you? Fuck it. I'm not going to make Zerglings now. I don't care. I'll just make drones because you don't have a Reaper. Or you could be like, you know what I'm going to do now? Fucking all in you because you're not going to scout me. So these are things you could do. like ways you could react to it. So it's still important to scout. It gives you ideas on how to play the matchup better in the game you're playing. And all-inning him would be a very real possibility because of the fact that he scouts a speedling expand with your opener, which is standard. But if his SCV leaves and then he just goes straight up Marines and no Reaper. Also, the SCV never came to your main base. This is bunker. Okay, now the SCV came back. That's scary too. Like, watch this. I just want to show you scouting pathing. Now, we're over here. I'll pause it. Look at the minimap, okay? Watch the minimap right here. And there's an SCV crossing. Pause. Now, if you notice that. Oh, cool, SCV. Now, how long would it take the SCV to go from here to here? Probably like 8 seconds, I would say. Or like 7 seconds. We're probably around like 126, 127 would be when the SCV would arrive in your main base. If he's going to literally scout that. But he disappears at around 120. And then around 126, 127, he's not here. And this is that moment when I'd be like, are you building a fucking bunker next to my hatchery? I would be thinking that right now. Because you don't have an overlord there. So if you're not going to have an overlord there and you were to let a bunker start, he could totally... Like, let's say that was like just another... Like, let's just say hypothetically, this guy ran 2 of his first SCVs out of the base. Let's say he was trying to be super fucking like meta, like crazy fucking intelligent player, okay? And like this is a build that you could see like in the GSL in terms of something like if you saw the tendency of a player who never drone scouted and he never he always proxy overlord scouted and he never drone scouted ever. That's just how he did it. And he like you knew his proxy patterns. You could actually proxy your Rex in a place where he normally doesn't check if you studied that kind of a player. And then you could send an SCV out at the normal scout timing of you know what a normal Terran player would do around like his like 16th SCV. And then he could run it over to your base to look like he's going to scout you. And then if he were to start a bunker and let's say there was 2 racks like right here or something, that barracks would finish as your pool is about to finish. And then there'd be a bunker done. And you would not have pulled your drones. And now suddenly he runs just 1 Marine into that bunker. And you're fucked. So I would say like watching the SCV like pathing as well is important. Because if you pulled a drone away from your hatchery right now and went to go check. And you were like, oh shit, yeah, it's a bunker. You could pull like 3 more drones with that 1 drone. And you could kill that SCV before he finishes the bunker. And then you could straight up deny the bunker before it's done. If that was going to be a thing. Like, I just think this is what I'm seeing out of your build right now is there's a lot of holes in your all-in defense with the way you're moving your overlords. If this is your like this might not be your standard, this might be specific to your opponent, but I just want you to know if your opponent's cheesy, you're actually making your life harder, in my opinion, through the reasons we're explaining right now. I think you're giving yourself less information, and now the SCV is still missing. And remember, we should have seen him around here at 126 to 127. It's 129. He's still missing. I'd be like, holy fuck, yeah, no, this is definitely like, what are you doing with that SCV? And then he appears again. So now you know, okay, yeah, cool. He's not doing anything because now he's leaving. So now if your drone was like right here and you were about to go down the ramp and you saw this, I'd be like, you can turn it around. You're fine now. It's leaving now. So you're good to go. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of your scouting this game. It's very low information. Super low information. And if you make Zerglings as soon as this is done, like let's just really quickly see what he's doing. He's making Marines, right? And a command center and a fast factory. If you make Lings right now, that is standard defense and incorrect. Yeah, like you don't need these Lings. Like I guess you can scout with them. If you only made 2, I'm not going to say that's the worst thing ever. You can scout with them, but I would say you don't need to scout with them. Unless the Marine puts you on a cliff here and you wanted to react in a defensive way, and you just wanted to be like, do you have a command center? And you wanted to confirm it. I know it's built by heart. That's fine. I still don't think that you're, I don't think this is good from you. Even if this is his build where he just straight up opens up 2 Marines and then goes reactor Hellions, I don't think your reaction is appropriate so far. I think that you could if you wanted to blind counter this, you could react to it a lot better than you are. Like for instance, why don't you just delay speed a little bit? Go for a faster third. If you know he's going to do this, and the reason why is because if you don't have a Reaper attacking you, and the reason why you have to get Zergling speed so fast, if you just standardly get Zergling speed, the reason why you need it so fast is because it's of really aggressive Terrans who go for multiple barracks early. Like if that's the chance, especially the biggest one is Reapers, like mass Reapers. If you don't have Zergling speed against that, you're fucking dead. You just die. Like you're going to take damage and you're going to eventually die, unless the Terran is really bad. But against someone who goes for a command center early and into Hellions like this, you don't actually need Ling speed right away. And you could have instead, if you know he doesn't have a Reaper, and you don't have to kill the annoying as fuck Reaper running around your, the one Reaper running around your base, and you know there's no chance of him denying your third base, things like that, you could just go for a Ling speed about 10 seconds or 15 seconds later than you did get it, because you could have prioritized the third first. And what that would have done is it still gives you Ling speed and time to deal with Hellions, but you skip the phase of barracks, which, if you know he's not going to do this, you know, that would be a way to blind counter his build harder, I would say. That's a better reaction, because then you'd have faster economy even harder, and more creep and more queens to deal with his Hellion opener. But yeah, I just don't like how it's, right now you might know, quote unquote, know what he's doing, because you've played him before, but you really don't know what he's doing this game. What's to stop him from doing something else? And if your Overlord doesn't even need to die if it just goes to like over here and then it hides on the cliff if a Marine shoots at it. Now losing your Overlord obviously sucks, but I would say don't try to make your goal losing the Overlord. If possible, just hide your Overlord closer to his base. Anyways, it's a bit blind. And now you're going for 4 queens. This is super safe by you. We'll see what you do. Also, if your plan is to take a third, which it is, this creep tumor should be here, not there. The ramp between your natural and your main can be filled in much later, because here's what I would say. This is what I would say. All this terrain right here and all this terrain right here, boop, boop, all this terrain over here, all of it is abusable by Hellions easily. Like there's nothing you can do about that other than putting Overlords to spot, so you can try to put your queens in the right spot. It's very abusable. That's very abusable terrain though by Terran. But here, this is only abusable if you've already made a mistake, which is you didn't react to what he was doing correctly and you let him literally drive into your fucking main base. The only thing I would say this affects better early is a drop. Now, if he goes for a Hellion drop, then I would say this makes sense. But again, you don't know anything so far. And this guy might do the same fucking thing every game. I get that, but it's, even if this was a Hellion drop, Overlord spread and Lings reacting with Overlord spots would be just fine too. Because again, if he's gonna go all the way to a 4 Hellion medevac drop in your base, you should have speed by then. Even with going for third first, if you did that. So if you catch the Hellions with Overlord speed, you'd be just fine. Now, if this dude just fucking dives in your base with 2 Hellions like a derp, that's okay. You have multiple queens to kill it. You have Lings. It's at this point, it's fine. I can't get over the fact that I don't like lack of knowledge. You finally scouted his natural though. What did you see? What did your Ling see when it died? Let me see. So you saw Command Center, you saw 2 Marines. And then, did you actually see the 2 Hellions? You saw like a glimmer of a Hellion. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty standard. I would assume this is Hellions myself, even if I didn't see one. But the fact that you saw one is nice. It helps you better understand what the hell's going on, because for all you know, this could be 2-1. Like, I know you've played this guy. I just want to take that out of the equation, though. But for all you know, this could be a 2-1-1. Playing with the sense of assuming everything is not a good way to play the game. If you always just assume everything your opponent does, that's really fucking bad habits to develop for yourself as a player, because all assuming does is make your scouting shittier. That's all it does. You're like, I know what he's doing. Do I though? Not really. But if you like, you know, for instance, if you would have read with like, if you would have forced reactions out of him by reading what he's doing, and then not, you would have done it in a way to like keep your shit alive still. Then you can guarantee what he does. But just assuming what he does with 0 scout until 3 minutes, that's an assumption. And if this guy learned a new build where he's like, oh, now I know how to do 2-1-1, and then he has 2 Marines here that just sit on the low ground, and he's actually got 2 racks right now pumping with a starport started and a reactor factory starting, a factory starting a reactor while he's just pumping Marines in Stimpak, he could totally kill you if you react poorly to that. Like with what you're, well, again, like it's a totally different build than fucking Hellions. But yeah, it's totally different. So now you see him coming across the map with 2 Hellions. He's super YOLO. One Hellion will never kill anything, really. That's what should happen to a player that YOLOs his Hellions. So, if you were playing Standard, you will have these Lings, like you did, and exact same thing would happen. That just happened. He would run into a couple Queens, not giving a fuck, and then run into a couple Lings that are behind the Queens, not giving a fuck. The Hellions would either take a ton of damage, or they would die if it's literally just 2 Hellions at this point, and then you'd be good to go. I think it's fine. 1 Hellion in your base is going to... Like, the Queen will kill the Hellion super easy. Especially if you have multiple Queens that can also zone it even more if you really need to do that. So, this is, like... If you're playing Standard against this, the same outcome would happen. It's fine. Nothing really too crazy to talk about here other than this Terran's YOLO as fuck. He killed 2 Zerglings and lost 2 Hellions. That's a horrible trade. He did force out like 4 more Lings out of you though. You're going for a layer really fast with a Roach Warren. We'll see what your plans are. Your Spore is early, in my opinion. So, here's what I'm assuming that he does. I'm assuming this guy's a mech player. Like, already off the bat, like, we'll even take the production tab away. I see that's Banshee speed. But I'm assuming that this guy's going to be a mech player from the way that you play. That's what I feel like you're reading out of it, overall. Like, you're getting Spores early, you're getting Gas early, you're getting Roach Warren fast. Which is fine. I would say your biggest priority... it's not bad. I think your build's not bad overall. It's not bad. I can't really critique you too hard. To be like, oh, it's all wrong. It's not that bad. I want your creep strat to be a little bit better though, but overall not that bad. Because I think a big thing is a really scary thing in my opinion is if you're gonna go for a 3rd base. This is a huge scary thing in my opinion. If your plan is to go for a 3rd base off of Speedlings and you don't have your creep connected to the 3rd before it's even done, if this dude sends Hellions to your 3rd and you cannot reinforce your Queens because there's a gap of missing creep, that sucks ass for you. That is the worst thing ever because it means you cannot properly saturate your third base. And you'll realize this when you play Terrans who understand that your creep tumor is not in front of your natural first, and they're like, wow, this guy doesn't have a lot of creep, and they prioritize on fucking your drones at your third, and every time your queens come down to defend your third, if he runs around you and goes to your natural, then your queens are out of position out of your third, going back to your natural then because there's no creep. So that's a very abusable thing that you can let him do to you if you don't have this connected by the time your third's done when you want to saturate it. So that's a big deal. And if you would have made, like this tumor, you made this tumor right away and it hasn't spread one time. So there definitely isn't a super priority of creeping your main base. Definitely get your priority going to your third as fast as possible. Because that's so like this dude could abuse you all day with that. If he wasn't so YOLO. And that spore is done super early, like we talked about. If you're afraid of like banshees with cloak, 4:30 is a great time to take your spores. You took the spore at like 4:10, which is again that's just another thing that's going to cost you a lot of money in total. It's just expensive. Like the earlier you do shit like that, the more expensive it is in your economy. Okay, you saw his Hellions, the angle they were taking. So your queens definitely should be in position right now. I like that your lings are behind your queens. I would say you're missing an overlord here, though. That's kind of a scary thing. You're also missing one over here, but at least your creep is there. Like right now, you don't know where the Hellions are. Let's see where they are. They backed off. But like, if you had an overlord here, and an overlord here, and an overlord here, every exit of your base, you could push your overlords with your creep. There's two ways this is a benefit. Number one, before you have a layer, they spot where your queens need to be at all times. And number two, when you do have a layer, you could make them shit creep for that final time. Like you could have the overlords, like, you know, this is like just before you make roaches. When you're about ready to go, okay, well, let's get ready to pull my overlords back now because this is that point in time when he could have a Viking or he could have something else. If your plan is to rush a layer like it was this game, you could put your overlords to like max distance from the creep tumor, and you could shit creep out of the overlord, and it would make the creep spread go super fast, and you could have a full spread creep tumor, and it would make your creep, instead of going from like there to like there with a cooldown, it could go from like there to like there. Like it would just be further faster, super fast. And then you could just take, once you spread that one time, I'm not telling you to do that every time. You can just then tell the overlords, okay, go fill in the sides of the map now or something like that. Or if there's Vikings out or something airwise that you're afraid of, tell them to go back into your base now. And that'd be fine. Because once you have roaches, your roaches can shove the creep now and help you spread creep with queens instead of overlords. But being blind for you is scary because you just don't know if you spread a tumor here, suddenly the creep dies. You don't know that if the Hellions are literally anywhere in here, anywhere in there, anywhere in here. You know they're not there, and that's good, but you don't know if they're anywhere here. And the reason why this is scary is because if your queens go down here, and his Hellions are right there, he could drive like this into your base before your queens could walk up and zone them out. Like they would get there, the Hellions would get there before your queens could. Or like for instance, if your queens are here, and his Hellions are right there, he could drive up faster into your base like this, faster than these queens could help. And what that does to you, yeah, you do have lings that could zone that, but what that does is if he has like 6 or 8 Hellions, and you have 21 lings, all it takes is like he goes to your base, and you're like, fuck, my drones are gonna die. If you engage with your lings instead, because your queens are out of position, and he roasts your lings and backs off, and he just gets a free like 7 ling kills and backs away, that's wasted larva for you at that point, so it sucks. That's why having an overlord in front of your base is super important. Terran versus Zerg is like very mechanically demanding. It's a matchup that if you make mistakes in, if your opponent's good, they will fucking punish you over and over and over. I know because I experience it myself daily. As a Zerg. You cannot fuck up in this matchup at all. These spines are excessive as well. If you have a roach horn, it's redundant. You don't need spines. You're going for a layer. Or not, a spire. Yeah, this is too much static D, in my opinion. Too much, way too much static D. Your weakness, in my already from what I feel like, your weakness is your scouting and your spreading of creep. I feel like you don't have enough assertive control of the map. Just watching you play. Because again, this is Masters League, right? But like, look what's happening with the Hellions. They're running right into your fucking base, and your queens are not helping at all. Like, your queens are in the main base. Did you see a Banshee cross an Overlord or something like that? Why did your queens go to the main base? Because again, if you're this is that thing where if you're assuming he's gonna hit your main with a Banshee, because he always does before, this is going to fuck you. I'm watching the minimap right now for crossing Banshee. Your queens, one of them is moving. Two of them are moving. You have not seen a Banshee, yet you do see Hellions. Your queens are still rotating to the main. The Hellions are now in your base. There is no Banshee that's at your base at all. So again, this is one of those things where I feel like you've assumed that he's going to hit you with a Banshee in your main, because again, he's probably done it before. This is exactly why I think assuming is bad. Because now you have all these fucking you have 11 Hellions in your base that have nothing to stop them now. And a spine curl, even if these spines are done, if he focus fires your drones, you're going to lose your drones. These spines are not going to just suddenly kill the Hellions. Or your lings are all going to die, because now your lings are forced to engage out because the queens are out of position. So now your queen's like, oh shit, go back. And already that's like what I just talked about. That's like 7 or 8 dead lings for nothing, because your queens are not there to help yet. And now all your lings are dead because, again, it's a panic now. All your lings are basically dead. Because now that fight has engaged in a panic situation because your queens were so fucking far out of position. And now all these drones are dying. And what are you making behind this? If you're making more roaches, which you are, it's panic reaction. So if you're going to go, here's what I would say. This is 2 ways logically to break this down. If your plan against a Terran who's going to go for Hellion heavy early is to go for Zerglings, and you're not going to make roaches before the Hellions show up. Like, you're not going to make roaches by like 4:45 to 5 minutes. If you're not going to make roaches by then, you need to have enough lings and enough queens to deal with it. This build also should be slower on the gas if you play like that. Like, you should definitely prioritize your mineral lines hardcore and then add in your gases after. Now, if you're going to make roaches, like, as a priority, and you're going to make less queens and less lings, that's fine. But your roaches should definitely have been made, like, about a minute ago. Like, around 4:45 is when you should make, like, 5 roaches or so. Just, like, not like 15 roaches or anything like that. Just, like, 5. Literally, like, 5. Because what you can do then is your roaches can do the supplement for what the queens were doing, because you don't really have a lot of them then. If you stop making queens at, like, 6 queens or 5 queens, and you have, like, 5 roaches now as well, your roaches can get in the way of the Hellions repeatedly, always zone them on creep, and he has to run past the Hellions, or he has to run past the roaches with his Hellions, which is doing a lot of damage, and then you could catch the Hellions with your lings on top of the roaches, and you can get rid of like half the Hellions as he tries to get to your drones. So, yeah, like, kind of a missed idea there, I feel like, because your layer was super fast, and you made a roach warren super early, but then you made no roaches to deal with this until after your fucking lings were... Like, you made them as the Hellions were in your mineral line. I feel like you made them as a reaction to seeing with, like, the middle of the map almost. Or, like, just before. Like, look at this. Your production right now is pure drones still. You have no roaches right now. You're making static D now. That's also redundant with roaches. You do not need spine crawlers. I would only ever tell you it's okay to make spine crawlers if you're going very light gas and you're like, oh fuck, he's going, and you're going maybe like Evo chambers as well, and you're like, I will not have banelings or roaches in time for this, and you scouted like, oh, he's going Hellbat timing. Shit. Then I'd be like, okay, yeah, you can make a couple spines. That would make sense. Otherwise, definitely not. And you're making roaches like as he's already got 11 Hellions or 10 Hellions. Where's the 11th one? Oh, there it is. So it's just on the top. He's already got 11 Hellions. He's been able to make 12 Hellions because the Actually, he's been able to make about 13 Hellions because the first 2 died in your base, and you still haven't made roaches yet, and you just now started them 0.8 seconds ago. So that is a very long time to wait. It's 5:42 and you're starting roaches. That's super fucking late. I would say the only reason why you would ever want to start roaches this late is because you have like 12 queens. Or like 10 queens. Like you would need a lot of queens. Because you're going for a queen heavy build. Going mass lings isn't necessarily the best idea either. Your link count is okay. I think your link count's fine. But you should definitely have like something else at this point in time. Like you should have more queens if you have no other unit to defend yourself against someone who's opening up Hellions. If you're worried. Now, if you had like 7 queens and 20 lings versus this, I'm not gonna say it's the end of the world and you're dead. It's doable. It's greedy though, and it would mean you would need to have like great fucking micro. But it is doable. I'm not saying it's not doable. It's just you don't position yourself at all correctly. Yeah, that was a lot of drone death. And now if you look at the income tab, you are behind in workers by 11. That's brutal. That's brutal. This is not the time to counterattack as well. You're gonna... No. Not the time to counterattack. You want to know why this is not the time to counterattack? Because what if, at this point in time, around 7 minutes, if this dude was opening up... Again, you have not scouted a fucking thing. Right? What if this guy was going for like triple factory and he was able to make Hellions really fast? And what if this dude had tanks out of tech labs and he had another wave of like 6 Hellions going like this right now? You just saw them right here going to your base and you're down here and you walk into his base with depots and tanks around his base, like 2 or 3 tanks with depots blocking your roaches out and like 6 more Hellions driving your base right now. You have nothing to defend other than a couple queens, and all your drones would die again, and you would do nothing with these roaches at his base. This is the first time you've seen he's made a starport. Actually, you do see this because the Overlord. This is the first time you've seen that he has a starport unit, so now you know he has a battlecruiser. He went all the way to battlecruisers, but you didn't actually. And I know you've played this guy before, but again, this is one of those things where, you don't have any information that he's doing this at all. You're playing super blind, so it's scary as fuck for you. It ended up working out okay because he went battlecruiser. But that would have been something that I would have said would have made sense if you would have done something like around 6 minutes, maybe made an overseer and scouted his base. And went, oh, look at this guy. He's only got, at that point in time, reactor factory and starport with tech lab and fusion core. And that could tell you, yeah, cool, okay, now we definitely need a sport crawler in each mineral line because there's a chance of battlecruiser. And then now I can send my roaches out to be aggressive because of the fact that he's going BCs. And then here's the crazy thing. Okay. Here's the other thing. I would have said as well, it would have made sense if your plan at that point, if you scouted up with Overseer and you were going to go, okay, I'm going to absorb Hellions and then I'm going to counterattack him with roaches because I know he's going BCs. It would make sense, in my opinion, to make roaches to counterattack him with and then maybe make like 4 more, just like 4 more to keep with your queens. And the reason why I would say that is because, again, if this guy were to react to what you're doing by base trading you in a way where he leaves his battlecruisers to kill your roaches and run his SCVs around while his Hellions go back to your base to kill your drones while he's killing your roaches, at that point, if you just left like 4 roaches back at home, it's cheaper than spines, and you could use them mobily to like walk around your base and kill the Hellions, and you would get rid of them super fast, so not a lot of drones would die. The fact that you leave your base entirely exposed like this is fucking scary. Super scary. And now I'd say, since he's going battlecruiser, your goal should be No more queens at this point. If you were going to go queen heavy, you should have already made them up to this point. But since you didn't, you should be focusing on going into, in my opinion, to corrupted carapace. Corruptors with carapace. I would say the only thing that would make sense would be the fact that you don't have a lot of gas. So I'd be okay with it if you made a couple more queens for now. But definitely, like the fact that you're making lings, I do not like it. You should be making make roaches again. So I think you're making these in case you get counterattacked again, and it should be roaches. And the reason why it should be roaches is because it's larva efficient. And what you should be doing with the rest of your larva is making drones and getting your fucking gases saturated. Roaches aren't that expensive on gas, but the longer you don't mine gas, the more gas starved you're going to be to make corruptors. You need drones now to make your gases saturated.
Mineral field dipping. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are
You're taking way too long to get an economy. Part of it's because you lost a lot of it because of bad defense, and part of it's because you're making weird choices in mid game. I feel like you're making more static D. You don't need that right now. This is lazy. You know what this static D tells me? Honestly, I can already tell what it is. I already know what it is. This static D is the tendency of a player who doesn't feel confident in map control. And players who don't feel confident in map control are players with weak creep spread. Your creep spread is definitely a weak part of your gameplay. Like, for instance, this tumor, you made this tumor at like 2 minutes, and you've spread it 2 times since then. And it's almost 9 minutes now. You spread this tumor almost twice in 7 minutes. These tumors, like this tumor, spread twice in like 6 minutes. This tumor has spread 3 times. This tumor, right, I think you might have made one there. This tumor has spread 3 times. This tumor has spread once. This tumor never, or actually, that tumor, yeah, that was the same tumor from there. It spread 2 times. Like, your creep spread should honestly be, like, look at the minimap for a second. Your creep spread should be like this. Like, roughly like that. Already. It should be like 50% of the map at this point. Or like 45% of the map. Roughly. And right now, I would say you have about 15% of the map. You have a decent little coverage in front of your third base. Or your fourth base, rather. And you have like 1 tumor coverage in front of your third. But the fact that your third base at 9 minutes still can see the edge of your creep right here, that is a big problem. That means your creep spread is super weak. And that's why I feel like you make static D, because you're always getting surprised by attacks and you're like, fuck! Hellions and Hellions! When you should see Hellions driving like this across your creep. Like down here. And you could be like, oh, I have 8 seconds or like 10 seconds to react to that. You should see Hellions up here driving across your creep. You should see Hellions driving up over the ramp. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't have any creep spread. So, work on that for sure. Your creep spread is definitely needing improvement. And if you do that, making static D like this is a bad idea. You'll realize that. Making it later makes sense. Once you get an army that can't defend yourself properly. But the fact that you're making just static D right now, if this dude showed up at your base, he would still wipe out drones like crazy. Like 2 spines again are not going to zone out 12 Hellions again or something like that. They're not going to zone out Hellion Cyclone. He's going to lock onto these things with Cyclones, and then he's going to kill your fucking drones at your hatchery. While you're trying to make units then. Like, you're going to make units when you get attacked regardless, right? So why not have them at first so you can actually defend your base properly, and instead of making units as your hatcheries die. And here's the crazy thing too, is if your opponent is going Battlecruiser Hellion Cyclone, which you haven't seen yet, again, you know he's got tank Hellion Battlecruiser. You can assume he might go Hellion Cyclone. Again, assuming it's never the greatest idea though. You kind of want to confirm shit, right? But if your opponent goes Hellion Cyclone and you only have static D, if your opponent's fast and he attacks you and all you have is Spinecrawler Corruptor, you can't do anything about it, because all you can do is if he attacks your battle, like let's say he attacks your Spinecrawlers with battle cruisers and you go, all right, Corruptors, move forward and attack those battle cruisers, and then he moves his Cyclones forward and locks onto your Corruptor. You can't do anything about that because you don't have a ground army to zone him with. Like, Queens aren't going to do it. Queens are just going to die as well. It's just scary. That's all. And like right there, here's another thing. This turn player, I feel like, is missing the beat on what he should be doing. The fact that he Yamato'd your queens is okay in my opinion. There's no problem with that, because Yamatoing the first unit you see is good. In terms of like things that could easily annoy the BC, just get rid of them. But you know what he should have done right there? He should have just flew into your mineral line and right-click the drone, 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 right-click the drone. 2 battlecruisers can kill a drone every like 0.5 seconds. Or like 0.8 seconds. It's ridiculously fast. He could have probably killed about 6 of your drones if you would have immediately went to your mineral line after he killed your 2 queens. Before his first battlecruiser would have teleported away with like yellow health if he really wanted to like teleport safely like that. And then his second BC could have killed like another 4 drones after and teleported away with like yellow health. He could have killed like your whole mineral line here essentially. But he didn't attack any of your drones, so I feel like this turn doesn't really fully understand what he's doing, which is fine. It's just that's the kind of shit that if you have a gap in your defense, that's the kind of shit that's going to be a problem for you. And why is that a problem? Because this is why. You're making way too many fucking spines, which is slowing your drone count down like crazy. You're making way too many units when you don't need them, like all these lings again. It should have been drones earlier. That would have allowed you to make more corruptors faster. And the fact that you've made neural parasite pathogen gland infestors after making a spire and you've just only made 3 corruptors is another problem. Because if you would have scouted that he was going for a multi-battlecruiser opener, you should make corruptor, if you're going to go roach corruptor first like you did, commit to it. And you should have made like 12 corruptors with like 20 roaches off of a good economy and then go infestors. If you're going to go infestors before corruptor, like 3 corruptor don't do shit against players who know what they're doing. So, like, if you play a Terran who's intelligent, you're going to get punished like crazy. Because remember how I said this guy could have killed like 6 drones and then teleported away? He could have killed like another 4 drones and teleported the second battlecruiser away. He could have killed your whole fucking mineral line and gas here off of the DPS of 3 corruptor. If he really was like knowing what, if he was a good Terran player, he could have been like, all right, how about I just kill all 17 drones here and then leave? Like, that's very doable. Versus just the DPS of 3 corruptor and 3 queens and a spore crawler. He could have also double Yamato down your spore crawler, or 1 Yamato'd it and focus fired it down with the 2 corruptor if he felt like it wasn't gonna, the queens were in range, and then he could have not had a spore there. That would have been the best way to keep them there longer, so that he could kill more drones. So, and like obviously you'd have to run drones away, which is another problem because you're losing mining time. If this guy disrupted your economy more, is all I'm saying, it would be a bigger problem for you, a much bigger problem. And you're not giving yourself the tools to not let that happen to you. Like, if this guy understands what he's doing, your tools you've given yourself don't stop that from happening. You just don't have enough shit. So you got to commit to what you commit to. Just commit to that spire with corruptor first if you're going to do that, and then go infestor after. Because here's another thing too. If this dude commits to multiple battlecruisers, and you commit to like 12 corruptor with carapace upgrade, and then you're like, alright, how about I just now go push across the map with 12 corruptor with carapace and like 50 roaches off of the back of like 80 drones? You could honestly run over his expansions if all he has is like 3 battlecruisers, like 10 Hellions, and like 5 tanks. And maybe like 3 cyclones or something. Like, you could totally fucking run over his expansions. Easy. If you didn't lose drones like you did earlier. Like, the shit like that. It all adds up, right? Like, for instance, like you rushed a roach horn, but you did, like this is the first time you're getting roach speed. Like, you definitely got to commit to what you commit to. So these upgrades should have been started right away when you got a layer. Like your roaches not having speed still by 10 minutes is scary, scary, scary. That's another thing. If you like again, if you assume that you're a player, like I'm assuming you think your opponent always does Hellion pressure into Battle Cruiser. Now, if you assume that, and he doesn't do that, and he goes for like triple factory Hellion Cyclone, you would die again. Because if you don't get roach speed at all, Hellion Cyclone can pick your ass apart all day, and it can just bleed you out until you die against a good player again. So there, again, there's just your hole right now is Swiss cheese. There's too many holes in it. Did I say your hole right now? I meant to say your build right now. If I don't know what I said, but you get the point. Yeah, and the fact that you guys both have 75 drones at the same time, and you both have the same supply, you're fucked. You should have already maxed out by now. The reason why this is happening is because your build has had holes in it multiple times throughout the early game, which has fucked you over multiple times, like losing drones, or like these drones, 16 drones at this point would be kind of like, don't even notice it. Just rebuild all 16 at one snap of a finger, I got them back. It's a little annoying, but I'm already recovered. But losing 16 drones when you only have like 40 is a fucking big deal, and that's when it happened to you, when you didn't even have a fully saturated third yet, and none of your bases were fully saturated yet, and you only had like 2 gases running, and then suddenly all your fucking drones at your natural die. That was painful, because that was like probably like 40% of your economy died when that was killed. So that was a massive hurdle for you to like recover from. And not only that, but like you've made all your tech super early. And you also, here's the other thing too, is you rushed to a layer, you did nothing with it. So you kind of gave yourself a gas priority when you didn't need to do that. And then once you rushed your layer and did nothing with it, you reversed your build back into going mass queens. If you're going to go mass queens, crank the minerals out like crazy. Take a faster 4th base. Go queen crazy. Do lots of queens. And support them with spine crawlers. And, sorry, I did not mean to say that. Support them with spore crawlers and zerglings. And if you're going to, that's great. That's fine. And do later roaches like you did. But if you're going to rush a roach horn and rush a layer, stop making zerglings. Don't make queens like crazy anymore. Use your tech to let your drones become, your larvae become drones. Oh, ray attack. Thank you very much for the prime. Welcome to the stream, dude. You just don't really have, I feel like your build is like both things, kind of. Like you should either open up with a queen heavy build and focus on droning, or you should open up with a tech heavy build, which is kind of like your build was a bit more in the tech department because you rushed a layer and rushed your roach horn super early. Use it so you can then make drones. Like both need to make drones. This game though, you made a weird assortment of units because you let drones die. You made a lot of lings, multiple phases of them, and yeah, we already know what happened. It just was and you made a lot of static D. It's too much redundancies in your build that just slow you down. Like the fact that you're only 184 supply by almost 11 minutes is super slow. You should be maxed out by like 9:30, or like even if 16 drones died, I would say like 9:30 would be an okay max. But obviously you don't want that to happen. Because if you're going to max off of mostly roaches, you can max out by like fucking 7 minutes. But if you're going to add an Aspire with some Corruptor, you can max out by probably 8:30. So 9:30 is like, yeah, totally could have maxed with drones dying. If your drones wouldn't have died, I would have said you should have maxed by like 8:30. Because your goal is to do a pressure. You're playing way too fancy. You have Burrow, you have Passage Glands, you have Neural Parasite. You're playing so fancy. This is not needed. Mass Roaches would run this guy over. And you see what just happened there? You took a fight where you're trying to set up a fancy engagement, right? Where it's like you're trying to fuck him over, but what's really happening is you're getting stuck. Your infestors are getting stuck in the front line, and you're walking through siege tank fire as well. Like you're getting fucking destroyed here, and now there's nothing happening to these BCs. Going infestors against this style is not a bad idea, but you're doing it way too fast. You're rushing the infestors out, and you're trying to set up these like crazy neural engagements right off the bat. And what that's doing is it's allowing the Terran to have like 6 command centers. He's got 5. You get my point though. Like you're allowing him to do whatever he wants with his economy. Like you're not throttling him at all. And you're basing the game off of a neural engagement when the Terran's rich, which is much harder. And now you're behind in bases. You're behind in drones, so SCVs, which is really bad because he also has mules. You're behind in base count. You're behind in overall economy in every way. You're behind in tech. The only thing you're ahead on is upgrades, which are going to go away soon. This guy's got triple fucking armory. Your upgrades are going to get updated as well here pretty soon because right now you do have 1-1. You have a level 1 weapon corruptor, or roach, and you have level 1 carapace corruptor. You're going on level 2 carapace right now, and you're not doing anything with the info chamber yet, which is fine, whatever. But this dude is going to out upgrade you because he's getting everything over time, and he can actually afford it now too. So like right now, if you make more roaches, for instance, we'll see what you make. But like if you're still gonna go back in the roach phase, you're gonna die. Like I would say now, what you need to do is you need to go into like fucking something else, like Swarm Host. The fact that you're going Roach Ravager, this is going to fail. This works when you can crush the Terran down early and starve him. If the Terran's economy, instead of saying 1147, if it was just 47, and instead of saying 566, if it was just 56 or 66 or whatever, if he just had like no economy and no bank, and he was like struggling to replace units that died, meanwhile you maxed out because you're the one with a better economy and you keep starving him out, Roach Ravager can work then. But if you're the one with you're the one who's starving and he's the one who has a way better bank, you're gonna bleed yourself out and die. You've missed the point. You've missed the point where this is effective of the game. That's what I'm saying. Like you should have, like this should be an attack happening at like 8:30, not 13 minutes. Like that was obviously not good for you. But even if that didn't happen, you were still fucked. You're never going to break him defensively. If his tanks are set up at all decently, you're just going to die. This needs to be something better than you're still making roaches. So if you're going to go roaches, do not go infestors early. Commit to roaches. Like max out on roaches first and then add on infestors in case you don't win the game from there. Like, or you don't really control his economy then. And if he's like stabilizing on decent amounts of Hellion Cyclone and now you want to like fungal them, or if he's stabilizing on like a lot of BCs and now you want to neural those, then you can do that then. But don't just prioritize that, because what that does, if you prioritize this early and you make a weird ass timings like this where it's super late, you guarantee that he's going to get to this stage. Because you're like, again, this attack should have been 5 minutes ago without infestors. And that you could have afforded that. You could have honestly done this attack 5 minutes ago. And if we go back to 8:30 in this game, he is not going to be at 200 supply. He's going to be at like 108 or like 115. Maybe like 130. Yeah, it's never going to work, right? Now for fun, like you're just going to run in and die to all the tanks and shit. Now for fun, let's go back really fast to 8:30. He's probably going to be like 130 supply. He's actually super low. There we go. He's around 100. And again, this is because this is not like the best Terran in the world. I'm not expecting you to be the best Zerg in the world either. So if you maxed out, not even at 830, I'm not saying 830 is like the best either. Like it's just respectable. And this is Masters League, so I do think you're capable. But if you maxed out anywhere around now, anywhere around this point, instead of going into an infestation pit, instead of going into pathogen glands, instead of going into neural, instead of going into burrow, all these upgrades that don't need to be that aren't necessary, instead of delaying your gases because you're making all this static D. Like if you just prioritized quick droning and fucking roaches, your supply could be fucking maxed out, seriously. And look at what he could defend himself. If you had like 50 roaches or like 45 roaches attacking his base right now, do you think this would live? This would die 100%. You would break that tank and you would kill this fucking planetary. It couldn't lift off either. And then Terran's economy suddenly goes down the shitter. You check this base. You cancel it. Easy. You could then push in his natural, and maybe as you kill his other bases, maybe he stabilizes on making like 5 more tanks out of his 4 tech lab factories, because he has like 1 making now, and like as you kill his base, he makes like, he just prioritizes making more tanks. Maybe he's got like 5 or 6 tanks by the time you want to break his natural. And you're like, okay, I don't know about that. That'd be fine, because you know what you could do then? Whatever the fuck you want, because if he's stuck on 2 bases being contained and you're on like 5 base Zerg at that point, you could do whatever you want. You could go Mutas. You could go Broodlords. You could go fucking Swarm Host. You could break him with Vipers. You could do anything you want. And you would break his ass. Because he can't afford to max ever at that point. Like, he can't afford anything at that point. He's super broke. Because his bases will be mining out. And he can't expand it. Like, he's not only is he like only mining off on 44 active SCVs to your like 80 drones, but it's going down for him because he can't actually rotate his SCVs that mine out anywhere. So it's even worse. He starts getting inefficiency where he's like now going to eventually be mining off of like 30 SCVs to your like 80 drones. So yeah, kind of missing the beat, I would say, in terms of like your plan. You're just doing shit in a weird order. And like I said, now if you're going to keep making roaches, you're never going to break them. All that's going to happen is look at your bank and look at his bank. It's going to develop even more like that. And if this dude takes now really what it is, if he takes 1 decent engagement against your corruptors and he gets rid of them, there's nothing stopping him from just like teleporting into your base and like killing your tech as well. And then you're even more fucked over. And not only can you not replace your units because you don't have enough money, you can't even then replace the tech to even build the units, because not only do you not have any money, but now you don't even have the tech to build the units. Like, there's so many ways this guy can fuck you over at this point, but it's because his army is so much more teched up than yours is. And there's that fight we were talking about. Now, if this dude teleports his BCs in your base, I would not be surprised. And then if he pulled your army back because you teleported in your base, or if he teleported in your base and he pulled you back, his ground army could go over here and kill your expansions. If he doesn't teleport in your base, he could just leapfrog, push you with tanks. And Ravagers don't beat tanks when there are 10 tanks. That's too many tanks. You need to keep him below if you go Ravagers, which means you need to overpower him before he's rich.
Our forces are under attack. Mineral field depleted. Mineral field depleted.
Like, this dude didn't even leapfrog either. Number 1, he didn't leapfrog, and number 2, he stacked his tanks in a little tight ball. That is awful, because it actually allows him to get corrosive biled a lot more than he needs to be, and it also it opens him up to being killed while he's in the middle of driving all of his tanks out of siege mode, because he's impatient about how he sets up fights. So again, if this dude was better, and let's say he put a tank there, 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 like he checkerboards his tanks out. And then he takes like the back 5 tanks at a time and rotates them forward and recheckerboards the front of your base. And then takes the back 5 tanks and recheckerboards the front. And he keeps scanning and killing your creep as he goes forward and like watching where your army is. And he always positions his BCs, Hellions, and Cyclones on the side of where your army is, so his tanks are protected by a front line. If that's how he played, you would fucking be so dead. Because your base would be periodically being broken forward. And then you would never feel like you have an opening with Ravagers ever. At this point, you have to have something that's tech related. You have to have something that can siege him over him, like Swarm Host, or you have to have air unit superiority. Like in this case, Broodlords would actually work because he has 0 Thors. You have to have like Viper or something that can actually like pull his fucking siege apart. If you just have brute force ground units, it's like a fucking kid just like slapping ants on the ground or some shit. Like it's fucking, you're just gonna walk forward and like your army just dies. You're just gonna keep getting repeatedly pounded by his army. Poor ants. Yeah, no, it's like they can't do anything about this. You're super dead now. And the worst thing of all is, even if you did kill this army right here, even if this army does die, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6 bases for Zerg. The Terran player, honestly, surprisingly, is not expanding as much as I would think he could be. But you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Terran, with the 6th command center just still sitting here with full energy. But yeah, this Terran player definitely could be expanding a little bit faster, I would say. And also, what happened to his SCVs? Like, you killed a few, but like he's not replacing anything. This is that thing again where I would say that if this Terran player was better, you've done nothing aggressively on the map that warrants him not being able to expand. This dude should totally be... He should already have literally every fucking base on his side of the map with a planetary. And he should have like 80 SCVs fully pumping those bad boys. And you know what he'd also could have if he's really good at Terran? Because he had a fat bank. Like 7 orbital commands. That could just be like... Just drop 15 mules on a brand new expansion. And suddenly it mines out in a matter of like 2 minutes. And he just gets like a fucking 7,000 mineral jackpot. You know what I mean? While producing everything he's producing. So, like, you don't want to let Terran get in those situations. That is fucking scary for Zerg. So, if you're going to go for a roach style with Corruptor and Ravager, your style is early game. It is not late game. So, do not let the Terran get to late game. If you do, you're fucked. That's just how that goes. If you get to late game with Terran and they're maxed out on supply, with tanks, with battlecruisers, shit like that, like Thor's expensive units, it's not just pure Hellion Cyclone. If you don't have something better than Roach Ravager, you're going to die. And obviously better things are the things we just talked about. Tech units. Yeah, you're super dead now. There's nothing you can do here. You're too poor to be able to handle this anymore. Anyways. Hope this helps. Just try to get an assertive plan, like kind of what we talked about in this. We discussed like the differences of like how to open. Do something more assertive about how your plan's gonna be. And then secondly, scout more. Don't just assume shit. Always scout more, because if you never really know always what's gonna happen. So getting a first read on his first barracks units is nice. Getting a read on his third command center timing is nice, around like 4 minutes. Getting a read in his base around 6 minutes is nice, because you can tell exactly what he's doing tech-wise. Is he going to go mech? Is he going to go bio? Then you can do that with like an overseer or something. And then creep spread needs to be better. Definitely work on your creep spread. Your creep spread is definitely not that great. I could 100% see your creep spread being better. And then yeah, if you're gonna stay on, if your plan is to go for like roaches, if he's gonna go like Battlecruiser Hellion and you're gonna go Roach Corruptor, that's totally fine. But if you're gonna go for like 10 roaches and stop and then tech into something, that's fine. That works. That makes sense. But if your plan is to go for mass roaches and maybe even add in some Ravagers, fucking make mass roaches and max out as fast as you can. Do not start being like, well, I'm gonna go Roach Ravager, and before I max out on Roach Ravager, I'm going to start adding an Infestation Pit and Burrow and Pathogen Glands and Neuroparasite and Hive Tech. No. All that shit is so expensive on gas. Like, for instance, just getting Burrow... Like, we're not even talking about Infestors. Just Burrow, Infestation Pit, and all the Infestation Pit upgrades. That is 100 gas for Burrow. That is 150 gas for both upgrades. So 300 in total. So that's now 400 because you got 150 for neural, 150 for passenger glands, which is 300, plus 100 for burrow, plus 100 for the infestation pit itself, which is now 500 gas. 500 gas is the equivalent of 40 supply of roaches. 40 fucking supply of roaches. That's a lot of supply just to get the upgrades for the infestors. That's 20 roaches worth of roaches. Because gas is your limiting resource, and that is a fuckload of gas to spend on infestor focus. And then you made like 6 infestors. 6 infestors is 900 gas. 900 gas is the equivalent of like 90 supply of roaches, or right? Yeah, I think it's 90 supply, right? What? How many times does 25 go into 900? Is it 25? Or I mean, not 25. I'm like fucking losing it. You get my point.
I'll shut the fuck up, bro. Literally, even the guy who paid you for this doesn't want to hear from you. Less than 3.
Yes, he does. Gecko, thank you for the sub, man. Yes, he does. Depthifying is very happy. Thanks to the sub, Gecko. But yeah, like it's just basically you can max out so much faster. You get the point. So definitely get a plan and stick to it. And then if the game does not end, you know, then you can tech the other shit because you're not able to end the game yet, unless you're able to contain him or whatever. Just know that roaches and ravagers only work against Terran if you have a supply and economy lead. If you don't, you're gonna walk into their army repeatedly and be like, "Wow, this army sucks. Roach Ravager's terrible." Jesus, because it is. It basically is like saying, you know what? It's exactly like this. Imagine if a Terran player only made Marine Marauder the entire game. That's it. And let's just pretend like medevacs didn't exist. So, because I mean, I know Marine Marauder it's a little weird because they can like fly around the map and be mobile. But just imagine if like Terran had medics, where it's just frontal pushes only, which is what Roach Ravager is. Imagine if Marine Marauder kept walking into your base as Zerg over and over and over in your face, and all you have is roaches. It'll work well, right? It'll be annoying. It'll be strong. But once you have like lurkers, which is the equivalent of Terran having like siege tanks. Once you have lurkers, if the guy still walks in like 50 supply of, or like 80 supply of just Marine Marauder straight in your face, and you have like 40 supply of lurkers, you're gonna watch his army just walk in and be like, it's just all gonna die in like 2 seconds. So you gotta keep that in mind. Roach Ravager is an army that expires when your opponent gets high supply of tech. So if you're in that situation, you're fucking dead. So definitely try to not put yourself in that situation. Try to put yourself in a situation where like you can always tech out of it and get better shit, or you never let him get maxed up. Stuff like that. But anyways, yo guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something in this master's level replay analysis of ZvT. But good luck, Depthifying. Thank you again, man. And good luck to you guys that are watching. Go watch more if you liked it. And see you guys next time. Peace, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye.